Okay, so has everyone downloaded the files I sent in the workshop channel? If not, please download it. It's in the events and workshops, it's Google Drive link. Has the files we'll be working with, and does everyone have it downloaded? Yay, or no?
Do you download the what's as well?
Just download the whole folder. You'll be needing everything.
How big is it?
It's like 70 megabytes, so
Oh.
it's like, yeah, it's
Oh,
not
you're
big.
Nitro.
No, but I sent Google Drive link.
Oh, you did? Oh,
yeah.
okay.
It's like the Nitro is like I have the cheap Nitro, so it's like 50 megabytes. That's actually not
That's
that
not a
big.
lot.
Yeah. I mean, like I'll be going for overview. I'll be going over some color management stuff in Blender first. Feel free to follow along. I'll be changing some like settings and stuff, explaining stuff. But this is not necessary. You can also just like watch. I mean, or like listen along if you want. Don't have to like. But I have also provided the this scene that takes like 2 minutes to set up, but it should be also in the folder. Okay, so how many of you guys did anything with color management in Blender? Nada? So I mean, Blender has a few like view transforms. Like this is like I think after 4.2 they made the default, or 4.1 they made the default to AgX. Before it was like AgX was introduced in like Blender 4.0, and before it was all filmic. And I'll just show the difference between like the different view transforms first. So okay. So this is standard. This is just like no view transform applied at all, and I mean it looks fine at this point. But you can see that if we crank up the exposure of the light just a little bit, it starts to like the floor is already getting overexposed. However, if we change the view transform to filmic, yay, the floor is no longer overexposed, and we have acquired more dynamic range. So what's big deal of AgX is that you can see AgX is basically an improved version of filmic that gives you sort of more natural changes in saturation of colors compared to filmic, while still giving you this dynamic range. Because we can see that if I change it back to like 200 and switch between filmic and AgX, there's like not too much difference. But if I crank the exposure all the way up to like 1,500-ish, and yeah, you can see filmic it's really different. Because what AgX does is introduce like a sort of like it desaturates color as you expose the image more, which is more photorealistic, and it's like it's what happens in a lot of like film cameras or like traditional film even. So yeah, I mean like yeah, that's basically it. And display device, usually you should leave it to sRGB unless you're confident that your entire pipeline is covered in display P3. Like you have a good monitor that covers full display P3, and the whatever platform you'll be exporting to also supports display P3. Otherwise, for safety, I can just stick with sRGB. And the like Rec 2020, they're for like more HDR content, so don't worry about it. And then okay, in the outputs tab, we are going to use OpenEXR. And like this is half is 16-bit, I think, and full is 32-bit. And for single images, I usually use zip lossless. And if you're rendering like I don't know, like 600 frames animation sequence, like pick one of the lossy formats so that it doesn't take up like 100 gigabyte on your disk. Okay, so we are going to be. Let me just find the. No, that's not this one. Let me just find my folder real quick. We are going to be taking this render. I mean, this is a PNG, but yeah, we'll be taking the EXR version of this render and putting in DaVinci Resolve. Okay, so I mean, hopefully everything until this point makes sense. Okay, let's launch up DaVinci Resolve then.
Can you explain what EXR is? Like, why does it? Like, I know it's a high quality thing. What are the differences between EXR and other?
So, like, if you do PNG, you only get 16-bit like color depth, and EXR gives you full 32-bit. And then EXR is a linear file format. So, like, all of our modern displays have, like, because let me pull out a diagram. Oh yeah, this one. Yeah, if you, I mean, I don't know, if you look at the brighter sections of the area, you can't really see too much detail. So if you look in the darker section, you can't see all the color bands very obviously. And this is because like our human eye has a like sort of we react to the darker regions of an image more sensitively. And so what modern display does, it has a gamma curve that sort of gives more brightness to the darker areas. And so it's a non-linear mapping. But EXR is a complete linear file format, so it doesn't have the transforms. And so which is why it doesn't open straight up, but I'll explain it in more detail when we start Resolve. But let's just create a new project. I don't know, for Resolve workshop. Okay, when everyone's done it, I'll just go over. Let's change a few settings first. Click on this little. Sorry. Does everyone Resolve ready? Okay, click on this project settings, color management, and change timeline color space and output color space to Rec 709A. And make sure your color science is just YRGB, not any fancy stuff. And hit save. And now, I mean, for people who never touch Resolve, it's a video editing software with a concentration on color grading almost. So, oh, yeah. If you're just joining in, we just started up DaVinci Resolve, so you didn't miss too much. Because it's still a video editing software, most of the panels are corresponds to the sort of stages in video editing. Like the first one is media browsing management tab. Second one, quick edit. It's made for you to make rough cuts, but I never use it. I think it's pretty useless. And this is the main page where you have all your timeline and stuff. And this is Fusion. It's basically like a built-in mini After Effects. You can do compositing, motion graphics, some VFX, but I don't know who would use Fusion to do VFX. And then this is the main color grading panel that we'll be diving into in more detail. And then audio, don't care, and render. Yeah. Okay, so let's import the two files into DaVinci Resolve first. You can just click and drag them into the bin.
Can you show the project settings again?
So in this bottom right corner. Wait, is it obstructed by the?
I think you kind of see it.
It's a little bit okay. Let me click that. Just change. Both of them default should default to Rec 709 scene, but just change it to Rec 709A. It doesn't make too much of a difference, but when exporting, it makes sure that when you're exporting to other platforms, this A tag just makes sure your gamma and whatever is correct, so it doesn't have color shifts. Yeah. Okay, when everyone has that and imported the two files, let us create a new timeline by right-clicking timelines, create a new timeline, or Control-N. And we're going to uncheck Use Project Settings because I made the image in ultra-wide cinema scope. Let's change the resolution to 3440 times. Wait, actually. 3440 times 1440. If you think your computer can't handle this resolution, you can also do instead 2560 times 1080. I think that should be the same exact aspect ratio. But yeah, I'll be using like 2K. And then once we have that, just drag the 2 images on to the timeline. And the PNG would look okay, and the EXR would look really weird. But this is okay for now. Okay, does everyone have this step? Who does not have this stuff?
Can you go over like the settings again?
The project settings?
No, after that.
Oh, the timeline settings. So to create a new timeline, either right click or Control N on your keyboard, and uncheck use project settings. Name it whatever you want. Format, change this to just like 3440 to 1440. Okay, and then just drag the stuff onto the timeline. Okay, does everyone not have 2 images on the timeline? Cool, everyone has 2 images on the timeline. Okay, now our first step is because we'll be working with this EXR image and not the PNG. PNG is just there for like reference to show how it should look like. First, we need to transform the EXR to our working color space because, as mentioned, it is a linear file format. So we need to sort of make some, do some transformations so that we can work with it. So there are 2 ways to do this. One through a color space transform and one through using a LUT, which is a lookup table. Unfortunately, I don't know why, but the color space transform node doesn't seem to work on Macs. DaVinci Resolve is usually more optimized for Macs than PC, I feel like, but somehow this node doesn't work for Mac. So I'm gonna show both ways, but we're gonna be using the LUT because yeah. So I'll just show off LUT first. Okay, so let us open project settings again and go to color management again. Scroll down to this lookup tables. Open LUT folder, and then copy paste the in the folder of files you downloaded. There should be one called AgX LUTs, and go ahead and copy paste that into the DaVinci Resolve LUT folder.
I assume in my program / my languages I touched DaVinci Resolve.
You mean this folder?
Yeah.
You can get this folder by just click the Open LUT folder button, and it will just show you the directory of. Yeah, but yeah, don't paste it in any of this folders. Paste it in the main folder. You can still find it if you paste it in another folder, but just don't do it. Okay, once everyone has pasted them in, hit update list in lookup tables, and then save. And then in your color grading, go to this color grading page by clicking on this. It's hard to see, but this button, this color button here, and click on the top left. There's this LUTs table, and inside you will see a folder called AgX LUTs, which is the one you just pasted in. Because we rendered it in AgX lock, we are going to just click and drag on it. And now this should be a proper looking image. Yeah.
So how did you know which LUT to use?
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention this, but because I rendered this image in AgX log, it's like when you in Blender output settings, color management, override AgX log. I did because I did this, and this basically tells you, like, if you did any of, you can choose to do others. Like if you do AgX space sRGB, you just like use a different LUT. But since I used AgX log, I'll just use the AgX log one. I'll show a different method using like color space transform, but wait, let me just make sure everyone like has correct image first. Yeah.
So do you do that so that you have like the linear thing that you're talking about?
Yeah. Basically, if we see the curve, if I just add another node, you can see that the first one is basically the sort of like waveform of the EXR image. The second one is the waveform after transformation. You can see that like we basically sort of like kind of like unstretched the colors into like a properly displaying color, and like basically like mapped it to our like the correct gamut of our display in a sense. I mean, this will be more intuitive in the other method, but like I'll get to it in a bit. Okay, does everyone have a good-looking image? I mean, semi-good-looking image. Does anyone not have a good-looking image? Okay, cool. The second method, you don't have to follow along, but this method is the method I prefer because if you go to Fusion tab, click on the first media in node and shift space to search and type OCC. Just see OCIO color space transform. Hit add. And the OCL config file, we can just use the config file. Like this is, I'm just using the config file that Blender uses to do its like tone mapping and all the color management U transforms. And while you can go into your own folder of Blender, it's like, oh, I installed through Steam. Wow. But like it's in your Blender directory and it's kind of like deep inside. It's not that hard to, it's not that easy to find, but I provided it in the folder you guys downloaded. It should be the it should be this config.ocio file. So if you like go to that file and open it, and now we can select, this allows us to select like source space and output space. This basically is a more direct way of like transforming color space. And we're just, like we're kind of doing what Blender does under the hood almost. So source space, if we select AgX log, which is the space we're coming from, and output space, select AgX space sRGB. Yeah, and that will give us like 100% accurate image because we are using the config file that Blender uses. But I mean, since I don't know, I guess we have like 2 Mac users here. This method doesn't work on Macs for some reason, but so I'll stick with using a LUT. I mean, it pretty much it does the same thing pretty much, but yeah. For simplicity, I'll just like, instead of jumping around both methods, I'll just use LUT for this one. Okay. Cool. I guess we'll move on to actual color grading now. I guess to give a brief overview of the color grading panels first. The first 2 we don't have to worry about. This is for like, if you shot your footage with an actual camera, you can like do some cool stuff. But what we're going to be focusing on is this this is a color wheel. And what a color wheel does, it basically sort of manipulates a certain area of an image based on each color wheel. And it's pretty obvious to, wait, if you guys, does everyone have this, can everyone see the scopes on their display or no? If you can't, toggle between these to click on this like waveform button thingy. You should see it popping up. And this gives us a pretty good way of visualizing our the color changes we did. And so, for example, take the most simple one, offset. This basically controls all the color globally. Like if I change the brightness of offset, it shifts the whole image, value of whole image up and down, just very I don't know, as you would expect.
Can you explain the color graph? What are the axes?
So this waveform graph, it's it corresponds to the position in your image. For example, you guys don't have to follow this along. I'm just gonna show this for demonstration purposes.
Oh, cool. So this is only looking from left to right.
Yeah, it's like the x-axis is the
image
axis of your image.
Okay. Is there a way to flip it so you have if you're trying to do the y instead for the vertical side?
I don't think so. But yeah, I don't think you can do it. Maybe you can. Maybe you can.
You just would rotate your image and then do it.
Well, first, I don't know why would you do it, but
you're filming a TikTok.
Oh wait, if you're filming on TikTok, if your timeline resolution is vertical, then this would it will change correspondingly.
Okay.
If your timeline resolution, there's an option timeline for vertical resolution. If you hit that button, it will change correspondingly.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Okay, so I just explained the offset color wheel. We'll be diving deeper into these color wheels later when we actually start color grading the footage. But for now, just know that they all manipulate a certain region of an image. And then we have our curve editor, which it's a pretty straightforward tool, just like every other photo editing, video editing software like Photoshop. We'll also be diving into this in more detail later. And then we have a very important mask window. This basically creates a mask of any shape you want. And yeah, we'll also be using this later on. Okay, so let's actually start color grading. The first step in the color grading process is usually color correction. And this is more prevalent in film, traditional photography sort of setups. Because in reality, when you film something, it's hard to get everything correct, because first you have a budget, and then in real life you can't just say here in Blender I can just add another light in the foreground if I want to, but in real life you can't do that. So the first step is usually color correction to make basically change the image from fix any messed up parts of the image. But since we are doing CG, it doesn't apply quite much. So our color correction step would just be restoring some of the contrast lost in the AgX. Because if we go back to Blender and just change it to 500, you see that AgX actually gets rid of some of the contrast. Standard AgX. And yeah, so what we will be doing first step is restoring some of that contrast, and we will do it using the curve tool. The curve tool, if anyone never used a curve tool, it basically it's a function that maps the brightness of your input to your output. If I create a control point here and drag it down, I'm basically darkening the darker areas of an image. If I do one here and drag it up, it's basically brightening the brighter part of an image.
So the y-axis is going to be the output. And
Yeah.
the x-axis is your
Right. And yeah, so to add contrast, we can adding contrast is basically darkening what's dark and brightening what's bright. So that's basically the essence of adding contrast. And what we want to do is create contrast by dragging this down a little bit, dragging the curve down. Actually, yeah, I just realized I keep forgetting that the model has like such ass dynamic range, but yeah. Okay. And then we can add a little bit more contrast by lifting the highlights up a little bit. Just a little bit would be fine. And this is what is a very commonly used thing called the S curve, because if you drag the highlights up and bottom down, it's an S-shaped curve. And I mean, it's used in a lot of like color grading like process. I'm gonna make a very personal step. I want to lift the shadows up a little bit. Like, I do this because I feel like it gives the image a little bit more filmic look, because in traditional film, they don't have quite as much dynamic range. And like in actual film, you kind of never have true black. So I just like doing this, like lift the shadows up a little bit, just a tiny little bit, and so that it's not completely dark. I mean, Ray will probably like disagree with me. He kind of hates me doing it every time, but he likes more contrast. But like I like it. I like to lift my shadows up a little bit. But this is completely personal, and you can choose whatever you want. Yes.
For notes, right now on your slide there are 2.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I forgot to. I'm awful. Yeah, let me delete this. So the shortcut to add a node is Alt S. You can add how many ever you want, and you can also add a node by like right click, add node, color corrector, but that's too complicated. And this is Alt S adds a node adds a node after your currently selected node. If you want to add a node before your currently selected node, press Shift S. Yeah, that's a handy shortcut. Okay, so now let's try like Alt S to create a new node, and yeah, just give it a little bit of contrast. And is everyone good on this stuff? Okay,
I'm gonna head up.
Okay, see you.
You guys. See you in December.
Have fun in Japan. But okay, so other handy shortcut is Control D. You can toggle. Okay. Come back.
Now she sees.
Yeah, if you press Control D, you can like toggle a node on and off. It's pretty handy to visualize what changes you made in a node. Okay, I mean it's already looking like better, so we will proceed with our next step. Oh, actually, before, like, let me just demonstrate something real quick. Like this whole mess that we caused, like we added a LUT, we like changed an image from grayish to like decently looking. Like, why don't we just use PNG instead, right? PNGs are like so easy to use. So the good thing about EXR is that it's like kind of a raw file so it contains a lot more brightness information. We can see before the LUT node, I'm gonna Shift S to add another node. And in this node, I can adjust the exposure by going to the color wheels and changing offset. And you can see that, like, if I zoom in on the highlights of a character, you can see that when I lower the exposure, the highlight details is getting restored. Like you can see more details on the highlight that was like previously kind of overexposed. But when we lower the exposure, we can see all the details again. However, if I were to do this on the PNG, you can go to clips to navigate between your different clips. Yeah. If I were to do this on the PNG, if I lower exposure, you can see that like basically what's lost is already lost in PNG. Like you don't get back information by lowering, adjusting exposure. You're just changing the value of the pixel. And that's what's so good about EXR, because like if you render like a 1000 frame animation and you realize you want the exposure to be like lower by a little bit, you don't want to like re-render the 1000 frame animation. So, and this EXR just gives you this like sort of extra control in post-production pipeline, and sort of kind of safeties you from re-rendering everything in a way. I mean, for 1 frame still renders, it's probably fine to use like PNG and stuff, because you can just always go back in Blender and like let's just tweak the exposure a bit, re-render. But yeah, in large scale animations, you want as much control as much possible. Okay, now let's go back to our the EXR file that we were working with. Does anyone have any problems so far? Okay, cool. Okay, now we will move on to the part that sort of gives the image a more like stylized look, I guess. So let's create a new node after the curve node. Also, just a quick note, you can label your node by right-clicking node label. You can type whatever, like contrast. Like I usually don't do it, but you can if you want to keep it neat. Okay, in the new node, we are going to use the color wheels very heavily. So back to explaining the color wheels. As I said, color wheels, each color wheel affect just a certain region of an image. If we click on this, like this, there's another little color wheel button here. If you click on it, it switches to a different page of color wheels. And I think this is more intuitive. It's just basically shadow, midtone, highlight, and offset is still offset. And you see, if I adjust shadows, pay attention to the waveform. It basically adjusts the like darker regions of an image. Same thing with highlights. And midtone as well. And you see that in these 3 color wheels, their areas have 0 overlaps. If I drag it all the way and drag the midtone all the way, you see that this line is the line that separates the 2 color wheels. However, if we go back to the first option in the primary color wheels, lift, gamma, and gain, they behave kind of like shadow, midtone, and highlight, except they have areas of overlaps. If I do lift, you see the whole image shift, but the shadow is shifted the most. If I do gain, the highlights is shifted the most, but the whole image is also shifted. And so is gamma. Just affects the midtone the most. And so when you want like sort of a overall change and a soft change to your image, it's usually a good idea to use lift, gamma, or gain, because it has sort of like softens between each area. But if you want very specific area-specific changes, should probably use like log wheels instead, because it's like area-specific. Okay, now let's actually like do some color grading and not me yapping about everything. First step, I think I want to create some contrast in colors by shifting. You see there's a little dot in this like shadow color wheel. If you move it, you can change the tint of that region. I'm going to pull it to the purple blue-ish area a little bit, and you can you can just drag it all the way to preview, like to have a better sense of what the color is, and in the third to the last tab, if you click it, and there's this key output, you can adjust the opacity of your node by just lowering the output. Does anyone have questions with these two steps? So, I mean, I'm gonna try to make a good, I'll try to pick a good color. This looks okay to me, and obviously this is too much, and so I'm gonna go into keys, bring it back a little bit. And again, you can hit Control D to toggle the node on and off to sort of see your changes better. I mean, you don't have to exactly follow exact color choice that I made. You can like say you want your shadows to be like greenish. Feel free. Like this, this is like very personal choices. I'm just showing my steps to like color graded footage. But the color choices can be very personal. I'm just gonna control. Yeah. Is everyone done with this step? Okay. Next up, let us hit Alt-P on the keyboard. This gives you a parallel node. What this does is that, unlike if I were to create another sequence node, each sequence node takes an input of the previous node, takes the output of the previous node as input. But if I create a parallel node, both of these nodes will take the same image as input. So in this new node we created, I think I'm gonna, because if we look at it right now, the highlights are like yellowish, orange, I guess. I think I want to shift it to the red a little bit. So we can take the highlight color wheel and just move it to the right, red, just give it a little bit of reddish. And again, you can toggle it on and off. If you think it's too much, go to key, output, and just tone it back a little bit. And generally, a good rule of thumb for color grading is that there's not really a one change that makes your image 100% better. It's more like accumulation of many different tiny steps, and you put them together. It makes and then you see a relatively major change in your image. So it's a good practice not to overdo your color grading. If it's I mean, a good rule of thumb is if you're do it to a point that you notice a change, and then tone it back a little bit. Okay, so does anyone not have shadows and highlights? Let me just walk around and check on. Oh, wait, did you create it? Oh, yeah.
like, are you familiar with like layer? It's kind of just like Photoshop layers and you, like, it's like yeah, it's basically like it's basically layers. Yeah. Hide the lust and that's when that you human like human you're using the HDR color wheel. It's a more advanced color wheel that you can use, but and that requires a color match, like space for simplicity. So I made the first one to adjust like the shadows, and the second one adjust the highlights. So let's go up and lock. Yeah. I will switch between the two different color wheels. Just gotta Control D. And you can click on this one. Yeah, please turn up your brightness a little bit. Yeah, and
I'm just gonna just go through these two color wheels. There's actually, like, if you click on the first color wheel icon, the second color wheel is the HDR color wheels that we won't be getting into too much detail, but it's like a more advanced version of the primary color wheels. In the first primary color wheels, there's this you can toggle between like two versions of it, and that's the shadows with hard cutoffs and the like primaries that have like soft cutoffs that affects the whole like image. Okay, I guess we can. Does anyone want more time or okay? Bro really doesn't want more time. I see. Okay, let's create another parallel node by hitting Alt P. And what we're gonna do is go into this gamma color wheel. I think I want the image to be like overall more purple, pink-ish. So I'm gonna drag it to the pink a little bit. And it's really easy to overdo color grading with these three color wheels because they affect the whole image. So just be careful and always go, like if you need, go to this key tab and tone it down if necessary. I think I'm gonna. Yeah. And you can always just you can feel free to just overdo the colors just to get a sense of how it looks, like what the colors are, and then tone it down in the key tab. I find it like easier to work with. And we can toggle it on and off to see what we made. And that might be a little too much. Does everyone have this step? Yes. Okay. Now let's, I think we can select multiple nodes. We can select all of this and Control D to toggle on, see our progress so far. I think I've overed. Yeah. Okay. Now let me introduce masks. So masks basically allows you to manipulate a certain selected area of an image, and it's a very commonly used tool in color grading because sometimes you don't want to affect the whole image. And for example, I'm gonna create a new node after the 3 parallel nodes. I'll just hit this and click Alt S, create a new node. Organize it a little better. And in the new node, I think maybe the backgrounds are a little distracting because these like fancy like bokeh, they might be a little distracting. So I want to guide the attention onto the character better. So I'm gonna go to this mask section and create a circle mask by hitting this button here. And then, yeah, you should see this pop up and drag it onto the character. You can hit this handle to rotate it a little bit. And this edge thingy, it controls the soft radius of your mask. So to visualize it better, if I do this, you can see like this is basically controls how soft your mask is. And usually I like the mask to be pretty soft because I don't want someone looking at this image to like immediately tell that I did this. And because we want to darken everything but the character, so let's hit this little button next to the mask. And that will invert our mask. And obviously that is too much, so I'm gonna try to find a good value. Just a little bit will be fine. It doesn't have to be like, yeah, and let me just look around again. Oh yeah. I thought you I mean, it's fine if that's the artistic decision. I was so this new masks. Yeah. This would be the correct result. But I mean, unless you want to change the character. Yeah. I was changing the like scope. That's just how it changes whatever this looks like. Oh well, that's changing the exposure of this. I mean, depends if you want to brighten the character or darken the background.
Okay, okay. So, like you can work that out.
Yeah, if you came back. On the other side? Yeah. Yeah. Like, you're like not on top. What do you mean? It's the other side. On top, it's like chilling. Wise guy, like you see me take a crack at my fear state of that.
Oh, seems that everyone's on track. I mean, I'm just mentioning this. It is usually a good idea to do any sort of exposure changes before you transform the color from like linear to our working color space, because after transformation, the brightness information is already clamped. So, but like, I don't know, in this case we're doing like such minor like adjustments, like it should be fine. Yeah, actually, you know what? I'm just gonna copy this node onto this and reset this one. It basically does the same thing. It doesn't matter too much in this case because we're doing such minor changes. Okay, now it's time for some secret sauce. I mean, I'm personally a big fan of vignette, which is the dark corners that cameras produce when you like take a picture. You see the corners are like dark. And Ray mentioned it last time during a lighting workshop. I'm personally a big fan of it, and I think it helps like constrain the viewer's attention to the image more. So I am going to take the transform node that we applied the LUT on, Shift S, create a new node before, and then make another mask, circle mask. And I'm going to change the soft radius really high, and then make the shape like, yeah, like this basically. Oh, by the way, you can preview the region you selected with your mask by hitting this button. And I'm going to invert my mask, so it selects the corners of the image. And then go to the primary's color wheel and lower the exposure a little bit. And you can toggle on and off to see the difference. That might have been too much. I'm gonna make my mask a little slightly. Yeah, I'm gonna bring it back a little bit. Okay. Is anyone still working on this stuff? No? Oh, then what are people working on? Okay. I mean, and like after you've done that step, it's basically like you have pretty much the all the essential parts for a image, and we can select multiple nodes by holding down Control. But DaVinci doesn't use Shift for selecting multiple things. It's Control. It's weird, but we can select all the nodes except the color space transform node and hit Control D to see what we've done so far. And yeah, I mean, that's basically one color graded version of the image. And if I will go, I mean, I'm just gonna make sure everyone has something written down.
Yeah, you did. You did what I was gonna do.
I think this stuff is like, I mean, was it intentional that you didn't want to change the colors? It's actually just one?
What color?
No, the offset. Yeah, that's purple. This is just for exposure. That's fine. Cool. It's basically painting the which you like to export. Yeah, you can play around. It's really fun to swap.
I'll just show like another thing. So, if you get tired of looking at an orange, yellow, anime-ish background and want a refresher, you can get a complete different style by doing something like, I'm gonna, what should I do? I'll just create another parallel node. It doesn't matter too much. Create another parallel node and drag the offset. Play around with the offset. You can find that I can bring it like here. Maybe yeah, that looks pretty good. So yeah, now you have a completely different looking image. And this is useful because a lot of times making this sort of drastic changes are easier in post than like going to change all the lights and maybe even some textures in like Blender, say, or any other equivalent software. And I guess this is one of the reasons why like post is like a powerful step in the pipeline. And yeah, you can like make very big changes with very less effort. All I did is like drag the offset and drag like the color in the offset color wheel. Another handy shortcut is when you have your mouse hovered in the image preview window, press Z and it will automatically scale it to the window size. Yeah, I mean, this is just for a different style. Actually, I think my previous version was too purple. I'm gonna change it, tone it down a little bit. And I guess it's already been an hour, so whoever, like, thank you guys for showing up to the workshop. And I mean, I can probably like stay here and like do a little bit more if you want to stay. But
You should tell us how to export the
oh yeah. Sorry, I totally forgot about that. Okay, so just like Unreal, there's two ways. One quick way, right click on the image, graph still, and then hit gallery. This gallery button. Right click on your image in the gallery, export, and yeah, you can export like TIFF, JPEG, PNG, or whatever. This is the easiest way. And there's another way. If you want 100% guarantee, like the guaranteed highest quality, you can go to export panel. Name it whatever you want, location, whatever, and change format to well, whatever you prefer. JPEG, either JPEG or PNG. As long as you pick an image format, you will get images. I think for these kind of exports, like either JPEG or PNG is fine. I usually don't do TIFF for final product. If you do a JPEG, I would suggest 4208 bits because you're likely not going to be doing any more work over a JPEG image. It's going to be more for distribution purposes. So it just gives you a good file size for that. And quality, if you want to compress it, you can compress it, but I'll just keep it to best. And you don't have to change like these tags because that's the first step we did when we opened up Resolve. We already did it. Yeah, and just oh wait, there's one important thing. Select an in and out range because DaVinci Resolve doesn't default images to like one frame length. It spans like a couple of seconds, so you don't want to be exporting like 600 images of the same thing. So on your keyboard, you can hit I for in and move it over like one frame and hit O for out, or just drag this thingy. Does it? Yes, it should also work on the main timeline, like in, out. Yeah, I for in and O for out. You can like so if you set that and in the render settings you set render to in and out range, it will only render what you constrain in the range.
Yeah, for that to be quite confusing, just swap it. Oh yeah, that's fine. I should have mentioned it first.